Good morning, everybody. I hope that everyone's safe today, with all the snow out there and everything. Today I'm going to be talking about net neutrality. So some of you may know the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission has recently voted to repeal net neutrality and its regulations. And so for those who don't know what net neutrality is, that is the set of rules that make sure that internet providers such as Comcast, Time Warner Cable, now Spectrum, treat all your data equally, which is to say that, for example, if you're watching a video or your friends calling their mom or if you're playing a game, all that data is treated equally no matter what. You are not charged extra for watching that video. You are not charged extra for playing that game. You are not charged extra for talking to people online. Any of that. Everything's equal. Everything's free. Well, technically you're still paying for the service, but free in the sense that you don't got to pay more for what you're doing on the internet. Now, some people don't believe that that internet providers will slow down your data at all, or even block it at all, because they've never had an issue. They've always had perfect internet, so they wouldn't believe it at all. But to me personally, that's happened before. In my first year of college, there were a couple weeks where I had a rough patch of internet. No matter what I tried, I just couldn't connect properly. I had lag. I could not load up a page within like 30 seconds. Meanwhile, my neighbors were perfectly fine. I tested out the neighbors to the left and the right, and they were completely fine. They had perfect internet. I used their internet for a while, honestly, because I needed to. But I called Time Warner Cable at the time, and they said everything was fine. But how could I believe that? I mean, I was experiencing horrible, network issues. But that's just me. That's one person. That's my assumption that they were actually throttling me, because technically I probably was the only one in the entire neighborhood using a lot of bandwidth. I lived in a neighborhood full of old people and Hispanics. They don't technically use too much. So going on to a real example though, outside of myself, a couple years ago, Netflix, Comcast was throttling their connection to their customers. I'm talking about like a huge drop in connection. Netflix ended up having to pay Comcast about minimum of $25 million a year to make sure that Comcast lets the data that Netflix sends out to its customers go through their network. And technically Comcast was not doing anything illegal because they hadn't set up rules to stop that. The other example would be that hits close to home is actually in Mebane, North Carolina. There's a company called Madison River, and they completely blocked off services to Vonage. And Vonage is an internet service where you're allowed to use a phone connected to the internet, and that way you can make calls. But without that connection, you couldn't do anything. They essentially just stopped Vonage from working altogether, which is essentially stopping all their income from coming together. And that's the problem with net neutrality being gone now. If a company chooses so, they could just completely destroy certain internet brands. Let me give you an example. Let's see here. There you go. Some of the big internet providers own certain services. So, for example, again, going back to Netflix, let's say now they still feel like blocking Netflix because some of them own Hulu, and they want people to go to Hulu. They want people to use their Hulu stuff. They could technically throttle Netflix again. Technically, they couldn't because Netflix is paying them. But if Netflix wasn't paying them, let's use an example. They could technically throttle them again, have people go, "Wow, this service is horrible," and then have people transfer to Hulu. They could control the market like this. Not only that, who wants to? You might have to pay for a fast lane now. Technically, that's what they were trying to do all along. They wanted to force people to, not force, but they wanted to give people the option to pay for a faster lane, which pushes all your internet connections, like whatever you're doing, video, whatever, at a faster rate or at a better rate, so that you get all your services work better. But why would they do that? Obviously, for money. Now, people who support or not support, but are oppose net neutrality believe that we need net neutrality to be gone because it'll allow progress. Like there's not enough they don't make enough money to set up better systems, and with these net neutrality rules they can't charge us more, so they can't make enough money to continue building the network all over the United States. But the governments, not the federal, but at least local governments, state governments have been funding companies for years to tell them to build better networks and infrastructures. For example, there's a article on this if you want to go Google it. New York City had a deal with Verizon where they would have Verizon put fiber optic cables in the ground and cover the entire city. But apparently, according to the lawsuit files, Verizon only put it up for, out of the 3.3 million people in New York, only 2.2 million of those households were able to get fiber optic, and the rest, well, they didn't talk about it. And now New York City finally found out what's going on, and so the lawsuit's going on to that. In Tennessee, what was it? I think the state government just gave AT&T and Comcast, I believe, or it's probably just AT&T. They gave them a couple $1 million. I'm talking, I think it was like 498 something like that $1 million, so they could, start working on a better infrastructure for some of their people out there, because some people don't have, some people are still on DSL and dial-up, sadly. But now with these net neutrality rules gone, technically, these companies can do whatever they want. They can block, they can slow without any repercussions. There's no one to stop them anymore. The old FCC would have stopped some of that, and they did. They did stop some of that. Like the block on Vonage I talked about earlier, they blocked that almost immediately. They got rid of that because that was unfair, and you can't do that. But now, it's all in the window. It's all out the window. It's whatever they want, they get. If they want to block you, they're going to block you. And with people like me who live in an area where I can only get Time Warner cable, they decide to block me for some reason or force me to pay, I have to, because I have to have my internet. I technically use that every day for everything I need to do. So this is going to suck, but I think we need to find a way to get net neutrality back if we can. Otherwise, we're going to have a problem where it's going to be, it might be, maybe nothing will happen. Maybe I'm just crazy. But from the examples, I've seen, that's not the case.